So timestamps exist in case you just want to skip forward, but boy, did I not get the other preparation I wanted to do done, and that it's gold chip. So go watch the first part because that's really the most important part. Otherwise, you pretty much know what's going to happen. Actually, is this the Sakura Bakushin O I wanted to use? I don't think it is. I think it's this one. I guess we're gonna find out. So I took some of these skills again just because I literally ran out of skill points at the end. But otherwise, hey, 15% outer post efficiency and then other stuff. So I think we'll just go with this Sakura Bakushin O and move on with our lives. Because everyone, just to get into other things I should say, I really should have written down notes, but Sakura Bakushin O, you should just be using Sakura Bakushin O. If you have someone better like Maruzensky, sure, but there are a few people who apparently hit the quote-unquote the stat requirements, and by that I mean just train the Musume for the races that they're in. For example, Sakura Bakushin O can go in sprint. Maruzensky can definitely go in sprint, as far as I'm concerned, and what I know. But again, if you lose, there are random factors in races just in general. Yes, even if you are a front runner in sprint races. That being said, if you basically have the same amount of even just power. There is a specific. I think this race has an uphill at the final spurt, but again, when you look at individual factors in race mechanics, they are somewhat small. They could be a little larger, but if they're a little bit larger, it only helps what I'm saying here. But even if they're small, it's a matter of a bunch of small factors working together that can cause you to lose a race. Yes, even if you have maybe 1,000, 1,100 speed, 950 power, but if you have 1,200 speed, you usually shouldn't lose. There has to be something going really wrong, otherwise you just have to show your race and let people see what happened. But as we get into the race here, nothing really weird should happen, unless I, for some reason, set my Sakura Bakushin O as a pace chaser. Otherwise, this should just get you the win. I am aware that I'm making things harder for myself, and that moves into my next thing I wanted to talk about, which is, yes, when you have to increase an aptitude to A, say if you want to use Gold Chip or Tokai Teo, or as you'll see in a moment, Oguri Cap, and otherwise, yes, you are essentially losing stats for a girl who is better suited to the race. Let's just say that outright, because essentially, and if you don't know the reason why, let's just say this out for those who may not understand or know. So say you're doing the same thing as, say, getting your Gold Chip to A sprint. If you translate that to doing something with Sakura Bakushin O, one, you could just get your sprint aptitude to S as we just break out in the front. This should be what you're seeing. And I think King Halo may be blocked, but that just makes things even better. And two, say you're doing those specific inheritances or inspirations or sparks that you could be using to increase sprint aptitude could be given to basically getting your power to 1,200, essentially, which is what I'm having trouble with because, well, I just don't have I just don't have the resources. I think that is literally the problem. So if you have the resources, yes, you can do anything you want, but that just makes things better because if your sprint or your speed and power are already at 1,200, then you can just push your wits to 1,200 too, just to make RNG, just to lower the amount of RNG. And for those who don't know what I mean, as we go into our next Musume, is it Oguri? I thought I had an Oguri Cap that was at A. Yeah, it's over here. So. And again, this should not be surprising. I'm not trying to make this video as an, oh, look at what I can do. No, it's literally just normal stuff with just one layer of thinking. And I'm not saying anyone's doing a bad job because of it. I'm just telling you, at minimum, if nothing else, if I can do it, a lot of other people can do it. I think 80 to 90% people at minimum can do it. It's just a matter of RNG. Like, for example, I'm going to parfait here to give myself the best chance. But I think I showed you the skill, so no reason to see. But just in case, well, you didn't see it. Again, it's pretty normal sprint stuff. This is a very sprint-focused Oguri Cap. In fact, I'm over the stamina limit because, again, Oguri Cap has a few long and definitely medium goal races. So you could try to push Oguri Cap to mile URA finals, but that doesn't change the fact that during the scenario, you have to deal with races where you need a bit more stamina. And maybe you don't need as much stamina. Or maybe you're trying to slip past, oh, Jordan, haha, you just need recovery skills. Yes, you're right. But just take it from someone who's trying to sprint A aptitude gold chip. You need some stamina, and that may push you over the cap. Just also due to RNG that happens during the scenario as well. I talked past the timestamp, but it should be fine. We're not a front runner, are we? I think we're a pace chaser. Yeah. Which is fine, because we should have pace. We should have front run. I wasn't checking, but if we have front runners, that'll allow me to Oguri Cap, basically. I want to say something else that I'm going into, because this is a short race, and I need to say everything I can before moving on. So, yeah, so, as it turns out, yeah, you can proc Triumphant Pulse into Shizuka's unique. I thought I would be taking Shizuka's Unique, which you saw me take there with this Oguri Cap. I thought it would just be kind of an option select, but it's both. So let's see what happens when we hit 200 meters specifically. That is when Oguri Cap's Triumphant Pulse should proc. I think King Halo is stuck again. I wish she would have stuck for the other thing, but otherwise, no. We instead... Is it 200 meters left here? Yeah. So we were already in first, but that allows us to at least proc Shizuka's Unique, on top of all the other skills I got. That is something, I mean, I shouldn't need to say it. I believe most people, when they put basically their Uma Musume's card on the screen and say, well, how come I didn't win? My stats are literally at, because let's just say it outright as we go through the daily sale. Might as well, right? Stream like video, I'm sorry. But there are some people who have thrown their cards up in the community. In other trainers communities as well, they're like, wow, I have like 1200, I think, and even my comment section, there's that. It's like, I have 1200 speed, 1900 and 1000 plus power, and I'm still losing. And to that I say, yes, you're right, you shouldn't have lose. You will, I mean, it should be near obvious that you should win a majority of your races. You should lose no more than 66% of your legend races if you're using a Sakura Bakushin O with 1200 speed, 950 plus power. But if you don't meet those stat caps, there is some RNG involved, and I'll explain as we get into the next race. But otherwise... I say this because there are also trainers out there that essentially are trying to show you, and they're right to say this, that, hey, just train your Sakura Bakushin O and you'll be fine. They're right about that, and I want to talk about this conceptually rather than point anyone out. I think this is the best gold chip I have, funny enough. I think this is the last, and it is the last one. Okay, yeah, it is. Well, anywho. Oh yeah, and just to show really quick, I mean, there's not really much change since the first one. You don't really need to see it, but just in case this is your first of the videos I've watched. No, that makes it worse. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I was going to use a different item there, but it doesn't make any sense. So, So, yeah, there are trainers who say just train Sakura Bakushin O, and they're right about that. They are right about that. They're just right about that. But there is some RNG involved, and again, unless you show both the card and sometimes even the race that happened, there's no way to know what happened for sure. But I think the biggest factor as we move into the timestamp here is going to be the Wits variable. There is a Wits variable, and yes, it's a very, again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, these are very, they could be just smaller variables in the grand scheme of things, but they still have an effect, especially on a sprint race where the distance is lower, so any changes in variables can be just as bad, especially if you're end closer, late surger. But the part about that is, so if you didn't know, I could just pull something up, but I'm paraphrasing from the source, the literal source that everyone uses, where essentially the higher wits, the lower the amount of randomization, and the better speed you can get during a race. What I mean by that is, so if you flip that around, if you have only 200, 300 wits, that means that your wits being lower can mean a decrease in speed over the beginning parts of the race, which can result in things. This includes front runners as well, but as we are doing our best to pull forward here, we are stuck, by the way. We are stuck. So, but in my case, this gold chip here is just not prepared. I'm just doing the best that I could because I know I can't get the training unless I just gamble on things. So I guess day 3 is where we're going to try our best to do gold chip all the way. But otherwise, yeah, there are some very I think Wits is one of the most, not glaring, but it's one of the ones I can think of the quickest in terms of randomization that can happen. Especially if King Halo breaks out, and especially if your power is even at the level. I'll explain this really. I might as well explain this. So bonus part of the video. So, the thing about strategy, so if you're at stat level with King Halo, and by that I mean you have 950-ish power with King Halo here, yes, you may have the speed, but unless you're hitting that top speed, which I think you should, right? From what I've seen, you should. But just bear with me for a moment here. If you're a front runner and you have the same value of power, from what I know, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I like to preface that as well. I'm not someone who knows everything, and in fact, I get a lot of things wrong, but at least, if nothing else, to get your brain moving along with mine, get our brain cells working. So the thing about being a late surger compared to a front runner specifically is that late surgers have a higher acceleration at base. If you take two Uma Musume that have the same amount of acceleration essentially, but you put them on different strategies so all other variables are controlled, the late surger will accelerate faster, if nothing else. I don't know if they have a max top speed, but I don't think that's true. But the point of a late surger is that they also complement that as we move into the next part of this, is that they complement it with skills. And yes, that's the other part that some people might be forgetting. Again, I don't know for sure unless you bring up a specific situation. And yes, there's still RNG after that, even if you are a front runner, especially if you have low wits. But if your wits are even at 400, 600, Yes, but just know that there are still races you can lose, including to this King Halo. Now, it's better for this Legend race. Again, I shouldn't need to explain this because you can just Sakura Bakushin O all the way. But if you're wondering why you lose at times, there is RNG. Like, if you, some of your wins may be just because King Halo is being blocked, but not really much else to say. It should be pretty straightforward, this Legend race, especially as we move into the next girls. So, without further ado, not going to take up much more of your time. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Bye!